I'll walk through how to do an install of Manjaro Linux. The difference with this is I'm using the Architect Installer. While the standard ISO for Manjaro Linux is perfectly fine for my computer at home, for example, it's just used by the kids for gaming. It's not ideal for my computer at work. I need full disk encryption and I need to be able to create snapshots before I do system upgrades and things. Now with the stock installer you can do snapshots, but it restricts you to using rsync, which isn't very efficient. It's quite slow and just not good enough for what I need. So the Architect Installer basically allows you to completely customize the installation of Manjaro Linux. It's actually now a preferred way for me to install it, even if I'm not really changing much. It just gives you a lot more flexibility. So for snapshots, we're going to be using timeshift. If you're not familiar with timeshift, it's a very good way of creating snapshots through a desktop graphical interface. The snapshots are created instantly, similar in many ways to that of ZFS. The difference between the btrfs file system and ZFS, one of the main things for me is the fact that ZFS takes up a lot of RAM when it's running, so it's not ideal for a desktop environment for me. Well, we do use it for servers and things. The other thing the Architect Installer allows you to do is you can change the desktop environment that you're using, so you can install XFCE, GNOME, i3. You can completely customize it the way you do it, including choosing mirrors, the components that get installed. There's many guides on the internet of how to install it using the Architect Installer. None of them seem to walk over how to do it with an encrypted disk, which this will walk through and show you how to do. One of the main things is the fact that you need to create subvolumes and things in order to use it with timeshift. If you like this video and you do find it useful, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. If you hit the notifications icon, you will receive notifications of any new videos as they are released. For example, this is just going to go through the installation. The next video will be how to actually do some configuration and some of the applications that I use within it. Also, if you'd like to hire us for anything, please head across to our website at sheridan.co.uk. If you click on the Hire Us button, fill out the form, leave some details on what you're looking for, we will get back to you. If you do have any technical questions, please don't leave them in the YouTube comments. Your comments are welcome, but I prefer any technical questions to go on our forums at forums.sheridan.co.uk. It's just easier for me to answer them there without filling up YouTube comments. So anyway, let's get started and we'll get the installer running. Right, so we need to select our boot device. So I have this IODD virtual CD-ROM, which is just my ISO that I've copied to my drive. If you're unfamiliar with them, I'll leave the link to the video at the end of this one, and I'll leave a link in the description below to where you can purchase them. They're a brilliant virtual CD-ROM. So booting into the initial part of the installer, first we need to set the time zone, which I'm going to do to Europe, London. Change my key map to GB. Then I'm going to set the language to English GB instead of English US. Obviously this is your preference. Now the driver settings, if you're using NVIDIA graphics card, you're better off choosing non-free. If you're using Intel or something, go with free. And we can boot into the setup environment now. Okay, so we're on the live ISO. So in order to run the setup program, we first need to log in. So the username and password on the screen. So Manjaro and Manjaro, and then run setup to access the setup utility. Language selection, pretty much self-explanatory, so choose your language. I'm going with English. Now this is the Architect installer, so this notification is just letting you know that it's going to download the packages as opposed to installing them off the ISO. It's fine. So make sure you've got an internet connection or network cable plugged in, sorry. So the main menu of the installer, the first thing that we need to do is to prepare the installation. So let's go ahead and do that. Set virtual console, so this is a key map. And I want UK. If you list the devices, it just shows you the devices that are in your system. So as you can see, I have a 500 gig Samsung Evo that we're going to be installing on. So I want to go into partition the disk. Select our disk, so it's this one here. And if you need to wipe the contents of the drive first, you can do. Securely. It will take quite a while to do that. I want automatic partitioning. If you want to get fancy, you can. There are other partitioning utilities here. Automatic is fine for what we're using. So it's just warning you that all data on the drive will be erased. It's fine, and then it just shows you the summary at the end. Right. I want to go into Lux encryption because we're doing encryption on this, and I'd recommend that you encrypt your drives. So the automatic is fine, and choose the free space that was created. Encrypted block device name, that's fine. So at this stage, you're going to need to put a password in that you use to unlock the system at startup. Don't forget it, or else you will have a problem. And then it just gives us the summary. Get back to the installer at that stage. So now we've done the encryption, we need to set up the logical volumes. So let's go in there. We need to create the volume group. So vol group. In fact, I just got VG0. It's volume group 0. And we want dev mapper crypt root, so we're using the encrypted partition. Proceed. So volume group has been created. So now we've got the volume group, we actually need to go ahead and create our volumes. And it's going to ask the number of volumes that you want. So I'm going to do 2. I want my main root partition, and I want swap. You can customize them yourself from here if you want a different layout. So I want 2. The first one is going to be my root logical volume, and I want that at 400 gig. I'm using 400 gig because I have 32 gig of RAM, so I'm using double the space of RAM. It just so happens that this is showing 465 available, so nice easy to work that out. So that's been created, and then we want swap logical volume, and it's created that. It didn't ask me the size because it's just done it to the remainder of the disk. So now we can see our disk layout. Now we're good to go back. We need to go and mount our partitions. So my root partition is obviously going in VG0 root LV. And I want it to btrfs. Now this is one of the reasons for me doing a reinstall. I want that as opposed to X4 to make it easy to do snapshots. It's fine, it's going to erase whatever's in there. Now you can tune these options if you want. I'm just going to leave them as they are. And confirm the mount. So would you like to create sub-volumes? If you choose no, then you can go ahead and create your volumes and things, but you won't be able to do these snapshots properly. So we're going to go ahead and create them because it will create them in an Ubuntu style. and we'll go with automatic. So now it says it's going to create subvolumes for home, cache, and that's pretty much all we need. Swap partition is my swap LG. Mount partitions are done, so done there. So now we need to select the uefi boot partition, and this is the 512 meg one that was created. So it already exists on this because I'm doing a reinstall, so reformat is fine for me. Select your mount point. Defaults are fine for me. So we're not using ZFS, we've done the mount partition, so the next thing is we need to configure our mirrors. When you're installing applications, you want to use the mirrors that are closest to you, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And I want to rank them by speed, so this will go through and find the mirrors closest to me. This does take a few minutes to go through this. Right, so our mirror list is loaded, and it should come up with the ones in your country really, so I'm going to go ahead and select the top 3. And if we scroll right down to the bottom, press the down key to get over to this OK over there in the bottom right corner. So that's configured, we can go back. We're going to refresh the keys, just because the mirrors have changed, it's a good idea to do it. Okay, so choose Pacman cache. We want to go ahead and yes, we want to cache. Enable file system check. Yeah, we can do that. There's no reason why not. Go back to the installer. So at this stage, we're ready to select which desktop we want to use. Go ahead and install Manjaro desktop. I want uefi and base devel. It's a good idea to install those. It just saves you installing stuff afterwards, and usually you need what's in there. Kernel, I'm going to go with Linux 56. Now I know there's been some problems with 57, whether they've been resolved at this stage. As of the 26th of June 2020, I'm not sure. You can also choose real-time. Now I have tried to install the real-time kernels a couple of times and I have problems booting off them. So I'm not sure if there's an issue there. But most of the time you're going to be fine with the standard Linux kernel. The real-time ones are if you're doing real-time audio and stuff. But you should be fine with that. Let's go ahead and proceed then. We can choose which desktop we want to install. So do you want KDE, do you want GNOME, i3, XFCE? I'm going to go with KDE. So make sure you press space to select it and then OK. I don't want to install any additional packages at this time. And I'm going to go with a minimal install. I like my installs to be basically what I need. Anything that we need to install, obviously we can do when the system's up and running. Right, we're at the install display driver stage. As mentioned when we did the install, if we started doing the install, if you're using Intel graphics drivers, for example, you can go with free. NVIDIA will require proprietary drivers. Right, so our graphics driver is installed, so we're pretty sure that's going to work. With no messing around afterwards. So the desktop environment's installed. Now we need to configure the bootloader. So go ahead and install bootloader. I'm going to go with grub. Yes, we want to install uefi. Now, if you had a passphrase when you encrypted it, which obviously you would have done, then you need to stick that in there. These warnings seem to happen every time I've installed it. But after the system reboots, everything does seem to be fine. So this is saying some systems need to have the bootloader set as default in order to run. I've only got Manjaro on here, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes anyway. So now we need to configure the base system. So generate the fs tab file. Go ahead. UIDs is fine. Set a host name. So whatever you want to call your system. Set the system locale. I want ENGB and GTF8. Set the desktop keyboard layout. Is it GB or is it UK? It's GB. Set the time zone and the clock again. So that's fine, and just will go with UTC. So now you need to go ahead and set your root password up at this stage. And re-enter it. Add new users, so you need to go ahead and put your username in and add yourself in. So that's Sheridan. Choose the shell that you want to use. I'm going to go with Bash. I just prefer Bash. Choose the password for you to log in with, and then it will ask you to reconfirm. So that's the base configured. We can have a look at system tweaks. So I'm going to enable automatic login. I don't like having to log in twice, and we have the passphrase on boot up, so it's not really necessary for me to log in a second time. That's all I want to tweak in there. You can chroot into the installation if you want to make any changes from there. You can review your config files. I'm quite happy to proceed, so let's go back. You could have done a custom installation, which allows you to specifically specify which desktop components and things that you want in the system. I'm quite happy to just proceed from here. System rescue, if you have a problem with your system and you need to get back into it, you can run the installer, you can go through system rescue, and that'll help you. So we're done at this stage. Do we want to close the installer? Yes. You can save the installation log if you want to. I'm not particularly asked. So at this stage we should be good to go ahead and reboot the system. So I'm going to type in reboot. Unplug my virtual CD-ROM out of there so we don't boot off that again. So when we set the encrypted partitions up, we chose a password, and this is what you enter to unencrypt the hard drive. So I enabled automatic login because I have to enter this password. I don't want to have to log in as well. It does take a few minutes for, well, a few seconds for this to recognize that you type the password in when you press enter. So slot 0 opened. Installed. The one thing to note at this stage, it has happened to me previously when I did a minimal install, and I believe Network Manager won't be running, so you'll have no network at this stage. So just to go ahead and log in. So welcome to Manjaro. These links probably won't work. So let's check the, press F12, pulls up the drop down console. if I do sudo systemctl status network manager, put the password in, it's disabled, so I'm guessing I've got no internet connection, which I haven't. So I'm going to go ahead and start it, and we'll enable it on boot. So now the bottom right here, we can see that we're now connected to the internet, and we can ping Google quite happily. So as with all system installs, the first thing that you should do is make sure that your system is up to date. It will be, because it downloaded pretty much everything, but let's go ahead and check that anyway. It's a good thing to do. So sudo pacman capital S, capital S, and then lowercase yu for system update, and we're completely up to date. So we have Manjaro Linux running. You've got internet connectivity and stuff, so it's a good starting point. I will be doing more videos in future on how to configure Manjaro Linux and some of the applications that I use, Jack for example. It's getting late and I've got to get home. If you did like this video, please do hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to hit the notifications icon. We'll see you in the next video.